All right, what is up, Path of Exile fans, Kingsmarch fans, recruiting people to your city fans? Today in this video, I'm going to answer a very simple question. What is the best way to recruit new workers to your Kingsmarch? We want to do it efficiently, all right? So let's just go ahead and get straight into it, but we're going to start with kind of a more simple example, as I pretty much always do, and we're going to work our way more complex. We're going to end with a spreadsheet that's going to finish this answer once and for all. You're going to know the best way to recruit new workers to your Kingsmarch. Okay, so let's start with a simple example. So let's say I'm going to focus on just farming just to kind of make this video simple, but it works basically exactly the same for all the other jobs in Kingsmarch. So let's say you're in your farm, and just to make it simple, let's go to this random farming plot where I've got some wheat growing. And I don't have any workers there right now, so I'm not producing any wheat per hour. But let's say I do add a worker there, and let's say I just add a level 1, rank 1 farmer. Okay, so I've got a choice between two. So this is almost like what you're faced with when you're recruiting new workers. Okay, you're faced with multiple choices. So let's say, for example, I was offered a rank 1 farmer that has a wage of 14 per hour, and let's say I was offered another one that had a wage of 18 per hour. Now in this case, because they're rank 1, we're always obviously going to know, okay, well, the 14 gold per hour is always going to be better. But what if we're comparing those to a rank 2 that has a 32 gold per hour? So let's just take a look and see. Now, this first approach, I'm going to call this like kind of the lazy man's approach. This is basically what I've done the whole league up until this point. And now that I know how to use the spreadsheets and I'm going to teach you, I may shift over to that. But if you can't be bothered to deal with a spreadsheet, here's what you can basically do, the kind of the lazy man's approach. Go to some random plot, assign a worker. Like, a lot of rank 1s are pretty efficient. So let's just assign this rank 1 14 gold per hour worker. And let's check and see how much wheat it's making. Maybe a lot of you have already kind of figured this out. Okay, so if we look at it, produced per hour, we've got 32 wheat per hour being produced. And the cost is going to be 14 gold per hour. Okay, so 14 gold gives you 32 wheat. All right, so that's around 2 times. So 14 times 2 is 28. So it's even a little bit better than 2 times. So we're getting about 2 wheat to 1 gold that we're paying for that worker. Let's say we tried this other one, the 18 gold per hour. Well, since they're both the same rank, they're both going to give us the 32 wheat per hour. But now, since we're paying 18, okay, 18 times 2, that's 36. So it's actually less than 2 times. The other one was a little bit better than 2 times. This one's a little bit less than 2 times. So if we have a choice, we're always going to choose this one, the 14 over the 18 per hour. Okay, what about this rank 2 worker? Let's try that. So now I've got kind of in my head kind of a number. Okay, I'm looking for about like 2 wheat to 1 gold. Okay, so this is 32 gold per hour. So now I'm looking for like maybe 60-ish, over 60, and I'm only getting 48. So this worker, in terms of efficiency, per the gold that I'm spending, I'm getting, pretty significantly less wheat when you think about the fact that these workers may be sitting there for like months at a time, constantly using up this gold. The efficiency wasn't great. So that's kind of like my lazy man's approach. And let's say I was considering buying a new one. I would just pretty much come over here. I would go to my recruiter. I would see whatever's in stock. Okay, so let's see here. Is there anything? This one's 353. Is there anything a little cheaper? All right, this one's a little cheaper. So this one is a level 5 for 131 per hour. So, okay, I have no idea if that's good or not. So let's go ahead and hire. We have to spend about 600 gold. And then let's go back over and do our kind of lazy man's approach where I already checked my rank 1, rank 2. I have a good general idea. And boy, I already forgot what I just bought. Was it 100 and... Okay, I already forgot what I just bought. Let's just assume it was this Adam Falcon. So let's say I just bought this one for 113 per hour. And it's a rank 4, so I'll assign this one. I think it was something like that, wasn't it? And that one's giving me 130 produced per hour. So now I'm looking at 113 gold, and now I'm only getting about like 1 wheat per 1 gold. Substantially less. It's almost cut in half. My efficiency of how much wheat I'm getting for the gold I'm spending is almost cut in half. So this would be basically what you would do. You would actually make a note of the one that you just bought, unlike what I just did, and then you would come over here and you would check it. So I could just go through and I could just check all of these random farmers that I've already bought. I could go buy a new one and then just remember the name, remember the rank and how much the wage was, and then come over here and check it. All right. So I'm going to call this kind of like the lazy man's approach. It works perfectly fine. And I've done it basically the whole league. All right. But let's say you don't want to like have to pay every time to check it. Like you're kind of wasting gold and throwing gold away. And when it comes to, like for example, mappers, like a rank 7 mapper, you got to pay like 4,000 gold just to grab it and check and see if it's like efficient for mapping or not. And again, the method I just showed you for farming, it does work also for mapping. And I'm going to show you exactly in the spreadsheet. I'm not going to cover mapping and all those, but I'll give you just kind of a general high level idea. Okay. So let's take Iris Fits, for example. It's a rank 7 and it's 353 per hour. All right. So here's where we're going to go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. So, someone posted on Reddit about a month or so ago. Let's switch over to there. So if we switch over to our browser, somebody posted on Reddit about a month ago. They started on this, and then I think 25 days ago, they posted like an updated version with some extra stuff. The spreadsheet that they had made, by the way, this person is pretty awesome for doing this and making this and putting this out there. I don't think the Reddit, if I remember, I'll try to make sure to remember to put the link to all this stuff in the description, by the way. But in the Reddit post itself, I don't think it really gives a lot of kind of information about how to use it. They basically just said, should I hire this guy? How good is he? But then, and there's an overview, but I don't know that it really gives a lot of great instructions as far as how to use it. So that's basically why I'm here making this video. Okay. So I spent today kind of going through this, looking at all the different numbers and kind of figuring out how to use it. And now I'm going to tell you what I think is the best way. All right. So again, I'll probably remember to put in the description also a link to the spreadsheet as well. So basically, you're going to open the spreadsheet. Okay, we're focusing on farming, but first of all, if you look at the bottom of this spreadsheet, there's disenchanters, there's farmers, there's miners, and there's even mappers and everything else. So what I'm going to describe again for the farmers, you can go to the other tabs, and it works essentially pretty much exactly the same way. Okay, so how does this work? Well, let's start by looking at this kind of top left quadrant here of all of this list here. So what we've got a list of a bunch of different farmers that I'm assuming the person that made this spreadsheet, they basically went and bought a bunch of farmers and then they just kind of logged everything in this spreadsheet. Okay. So they logged like, here's one farmer that they bought. It was a farmer who was tier 6 and the wage was 135. Okay. The output in wheat. So how much wheat that worker produced, which is pretty much exactly like what I was showing before, was 225. And so the ratio of how much wheat you're getting per your wage, again, this is what I just talked about, was 166%. What that means is basically for every 1 gold, they're getting like 1.6. I was showing you examples where everything was about 2 to 1 at the start. This one's about a 1.6, and you can see the output was 225, the wage was 135. If you do this divided by this, you can see that's the equation in the sheet. It's D divided by C, and you get about 166%. Again, it's like 1.6 wheat per 1 gold. And then this person basically scored all of these farmers kind of against each other. So if you look at these ratios, that farmer on the very top, that tier 6, 135 wage farmer, that was basically the best one that they had. So I already showed you that, like, literally, if we go to mine and we look at my tier 1s, they're basically all better than this in terms of the efficiency. But, maybe you kind of start to outgrow the tier 1s and you want to jump up to just producing more. All right. So that's how all of this works. So how would you now use this sheet? Well, the first thing you can do, if you want to go really hardcore min-maxing everything, you could basically go through all of these farmers and you could just start inputting your own farmers in here. So you just basically change the tier and the wage. So actually, let's see, can I do this? Okay, at the bottom, sorry. So you have to make a copy of the sheet. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open the sheet and you're going to go to File, and then you're going to go to Make a Copy. And I've already done that. So then when you do that, you get a copy of it and you can edit that one yourself. All right. So then you go in here and you go to, now suddenly you can edit these values. So let's go to farmers here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to put in the one that I was just talking about. I had like a tier 1 and the wage was, what was the wage? Like, maybe it was like 14 or something like that. And then we see the ratio was about 178, something like that. Okay, the reason why mine was better, because I was telling you it was about 2 to 1. The reason why it was better is because I've upgraded my farm. So these outputs, so this automatically updated. So when I put in my tier 1 and my wage of 14, this automatically updated to 25 output. So your values may be off if you check an actual farm. And I think the reason is, again, because this person probably just started with the base farm to kind of test everything, to keep everything consistent, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Okay, so next, let's talk through a couple more things in this sheet. Everything over here on the right, in my opinion, you probably don't really need to pay much attention to. You can kind of like read through all this stuff and decide if you want to mess with it or not. But in my opinion, you don't really need to worry about this. All you really want is just to buy the best workers that are the most efficient. Okay. Now, if we look down here, there is a nice little table. So this is the table that this person is going off. So tier 1 farmer is going to always be counted as producing 25 wheat. Tier 2 is always producing this much. So these are the kind of the raw values of how the efficiency works for farmers. For each tier, this is kind of the base value of how much wheat they produce. And it's going to be basically fairly consistent across. Then you can look over here at the efficiency. Long story short, just don't really worry about the crops. Okay. Like each of the crops, none of the crops are really more efficient than any of the other ones. As far as I can tell, I don't see any efficiency differences as far as like, oh, maybe I should do corn instead of wheat. Just do whatever you want, pretty much. Just set up the farm optimally where you're doing each different type of crop. But I think I may make a future video where I talk about other things besides the recruiting process for doing efficient uses of gold. Okay, so basically what this sheet does is when you put in the tier and the wage, this output is going to get pulled from this chart here to tell you how much wheat is produced by that tier. All right. And I wouldn't worry too much about this either. This is basically just saying, okay, I bought like 5 workers, I bought like 10 workers of tier 5, and this was kind of the rough estimate of like the possible values that I saw for these things, but it doesn't really matter too much. So what I did when I started using this sheet is, now we're going to answer the question, how do you do the recruiting in Kingsmarch? So what I did is I just literally went to the bottom of the sheet and I just started punching values in here. So I was testing it out and punching a different. So like I went over to my farm and I found some guys. So let's just go ahead and show you how I did this for a couple of mine. So I was showing you my little wheat plot. Let's look at this random plot here. So I had a couple people here. So I've got like 2 rank 1 farmers here also. One of the wages is 16 and one of the wages is 19. Okay, so 16 and 19. So then I went over to the sheet and I put in here. So let's imagine I'm doing this for the first time. So I'm going to go to the next row. I'm going to put in a 1 and then I'll put in like a 16. Okay, so 1, 6. Then I'm going to hit enter. And then what you need to do is you need to basically highlight these 3 columns above that and then pull this blue dot down to bring the equations that are here down to this row. And then it'll automatically populate how much wheat it's going to be producing, what the efficiency is, and basically how well it kind of does on this compared to all these other ones. And as you can see, when I put my own worker here, it became the number 1 high score also, the 14 wage tier 1. This was a 16 wage tier 1, and it's an 87.5, which also puts it basically among the top. So big surprise. Okay, I already have a bunch of really efficient farmers. Now they're very low tier, but they're very high efficiency. I may touch on that at the end, depending on the timing left. Okay, so now let's go ahead and finish this off by figuring out if we want to recruit a new farmer. How do we recruit the new farmer? Okay, how do we determine if it's the right one, if it's right for us, right for our farm, if we want it, etc. Is it efficient or not? So we're going to come over here to Ralph the Recruiter, open up the recruitment stuff, and we're going to basically just look. Okay, so I've got a rank 5 farming, but we know this one's going to be garbage because it's got a rank 7 mapper. This should be obvious to you. It's 1,000 per hour. It's because of the mapping, not because of the farming. This is going to be garbage. Okay, and the only other farmer we've got here is a rank 7. I think I tested this before the video, but let's just do it again. So rank 7 farming, and the wage is 353 per hour. Okay, so 353 rank 7 farming. Okay. All right, so 353 rank 7 farming. I already did it, but let's just do it again for the sake of the video. So I would put it in here, rank 7. I would say 353 wage. 353 wage, and then I'll highlight these three above it and bring it down to copy the equation, and it automatically pulls the amount of wheat it would make, which would be 337, and it's calculating the ratio. It's basically about 1-to-1. You can look at these numbers. It's about 1 gold to 1 wheat. It's basically not efficient. And then it gets this score, 50%, which means, what that basically means is, compared to like my best one that I have, which is just this tier 1 wage 14, which is really good, and the output is basically about 2-to-1. It's about 2-to-1 output compared to the gold. Score 100%. If you compare this one, it's basically twice. It's my best one is twice as good. This one is like twice as bad. It's half as good. So now it's kind of up to you to decide. Do you want to take a worker that's like very inefficient compared to your most efficient workers, but it is going to boost your overall output? Because obviously this 337 compared to my output before 25, that's like a huge jump in output, but it's not efficient. So do I want to like search around more for a better high tier ones to start adding? Or do I want to just go ahead and take this one to get the boost? But now, for every hour that this is going to sit out there, which could be a really long time, think about some of the workers. You probably had workers in there that have been working for days or weeks or months with no breaks. These poor workers. Okay. That's how you do it. All right. So you're going to come in here. You're going to do this. Let's do one more. Okay. Let's re-roll. And now we've got another 7 for 370. We already know that's not going to be good because we just did it. So there's no other farmers. Oh, there is one more. Okay, here's a tier 2 farmer for 36. So let's check that. There's a tier 3 for 78. Let's try that one. Tier 3 for 78. Now, let's try the tier 2 because that one has a shipping. I can't remember. Maybe shipping's more gonna make. I can't remember. Farming tier. Let's do this. Tier 2 for 36. Okay, so we're gonna put it in here. Tier 2. And it's got a wage of 36. We're going to highlight these up here, bring them down. Okay, so it produces 37 wheat. Again, it's about 1-to-1. So basically, it's pretty much exactly the same. So that's what you're going to do. As far as I know, this is the ultimate in terms of figuring out how to recruit, in terms of figuring out how to be efficient with your gold. I don't think there's really anything else you can do to improve. Like this is the final word on this topic. Thank you to the person who made this sheet. It's really well made. It works great. And you can just use it exactly like I've told you, and that should be it. And that should pretty much answer the main question of this video of how do you optimally and efficiently recruit workers into your Kingsmarch. I will say one final thing. Even though everything in this video is focused on farming because I think it's kind of simple, easy to understand, if you go to these other tabs, if you look at disenchanters, it works exactly the same way. You would go here, you would put the tiers in, you'd put the wage, and this person has kind of figured out, it'll auto-populate these time divisors and stuff to basically figure out the exact same thing, which is if you have all these different workers, like how many items are they able to disenchant per 1,000 gold? Something like that, because of how the time works. I didn't really look at this, and then again, it'll just score everyone. If you go look at the miners, it's the same. Okay, they're all here. They have a ratio of how efficient they are. They have a score. And even if you go look at mappers are going to be workers where you might care a little bit more about this, right? Because they're kind of a little bit expensive. They're kind of expensive to buy. You don't necessarily just want to buy all of them. But so I'm going to end the video with this. This is the kind of the final takeaway. It's really kind of up to you. It's up to your style. How do you play the game? Are you like a 16-hour crazy person who's just crazy 16-hour a day blaster and you're never going to miss a day this league? So gold, you don't really have to be so efficient with gold. Maybe you need to just buy every mapper you ever see. Or are you going to be somebody more like me where you don't blast 16 hours a day and you take lots of breaks for a long time? Weekend comes around and you just don't log in for 2 days. But I still keep my workers going over the weekend when I don't log in, okay? And they're working very efficiently. Like every gold I'm putting into Kingsmarch, even if it's not a lot, it's always going 24/7. I don't have to like worry about whether I'm going to log in or not. And I know that my efficiency is basically kind of maximal. Like it's pretty maximal. So ask yourself, what kind of player am I? How do I want to do this? And do I want to have to worry about gold or not? Or do I want to, and you can make them really efficient at low tiers. Another thing, I wish they would let you actually go back and instead of doing these 2,500 rerolls, I wish I could actually go back and slowly build them up from lower tiers working up. That's something to keep in mind for future leagues if they bring this back, because the lower workers seem to be a lot easier to get really efficient workers. All right, and so with that, that'll be the end of this video. If you think this is interesting, I do plan on actually doing a second kind of follow-up video to this one. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to get a notification for that. It's probably going to be my next video. I want to actually, this is to how to kind of maximize the best possible efficient workers for your recruiting. But then there's, other tips and tricks throughout the Kingsmarch that are going to help you, again, just be as efficient as possible with your gold to get the most bang for your buck, or bang for your gold in this case, for the rewards that you're getting, so that you're not wasting it. And even if you are like a 16-hour-a-day blaster, you're still using a ton of gold. You're probably still out there, churning through tons and tons of gold per hour. And it's kind of interesting. It's like this applies to you, like it kind of doesn't apply to you because you just buy everything, you don't care. But it also applies to you maybe even more than others, because don't you want to get like a 50% efficiency gain on all of these hundreds of thousands or millions of gold you're using? All right, I'll leave it at that. See you in the next one.